Did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
Me. You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Or what's inside. You suck. Finally, we're going to reveal the... Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tomic's... veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
And her name is Minerva. She's the flower of the flower.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
Hey, everybody, and welcome once again to Aaron Live. Got I think, a pretty good show for you today. But it's going to be kind of strange because obviously we all know what happened this week with Charlie Kirk getting assassinated, and you have to sit there and think, well, when is it appropriate for me to do some form of entertainment show or announce some news about a project? And man, it's certainly, when something like this happens, it makes you kind of reevaluate everything, and you realize the stuff that you think was really important maybe isn't quite as important as you thought it was. I made a post the day after it happened about how I was disappointed and saddened by the lack of civility that some people in the comic book industry, but not just the comic book industry, all over the world, celebrating this. And, people, their reactions were, well, why were you surprised at this? And it's just, what surprises me is that I don't know. I mean, you'd think that people, you hope the majority of people are at least decent enough, even if they didn't like the guy or like what he said. And we know that there's a whole contingency on the left that hated his guts and didn't appreciate what he said, but that you would have enough character to realize that it's, in the very least, a sensitive subject. And I'm not going to comment on this, it's certainly not negatively. What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to get in response when you do something like that? Kudos from your other socialist friends. I mean, it's just like, it just blew my mind, because I'm not a fan of Obama. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. If they got killed or assassinated, I certainly wouldn't celebrate it, because it's like, it's a bigger issue than just a person you don't like no longer living, right? It's representational of our society and what's going on, and that we can't have differing ideas without, somebody killing somebody. But that just seems to be lost on everybody, and it just becomes this sort of little political thing, and it's much deeper than that. I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I never met him. I watched him like many of you did too, listened to him on the radio, whatever. But I'll tell you, as a Christian, when a Christian brother gets gunned down like that, it feels personal. And that was kind of the vibe that I had. It was like, it really did. It was like I lost a family member. And, I think a lot of people are that way with this poor woman that got stabbed in the bus in North Carolina, But what I came to realize through all of this is, it's like you can get, let's get even, let's do all this stuff. And I think these people, these clowns that celebrated this should be called out and hopefully lose their jobs for being that callous of individuals. That I think that's just desserts. But the Bible tells us this is a spiritual battle, folks. And it reminded me of, the Civil War. Civil War ended slavery, but it didn't end racism. It took generations before that went away, and a lot of work by a lot of people changing culture, changing the minds of people, so they viewed that issue differently. And it's going to be the same thing with this. This sort of leftist ideology has to be eradicated from American society if we're going to survive. But you can only do that by changing people's hearts and minds. Winning a war, you may get these people out of the public square or out of job positions or whatever of authority, which would be good, but they're still thinking the same way. They just don't have the power. You have to change thought. And that's where, praying for your enemies and the things that Jesus actually did teach are sort of important things that I think we all need to keep in mind. But that's all I got to say about that. We do have to go on despite unfortunate circumstances we're forced to deal with every day. And so here we are. What a way to open the show. Huh? Sorry, but I couldn't just come on without saying something. It has to be addressed. I'm not particularly great at debating, or I know what I think, like all of us do. I know what I believe, like all of us do. And you can sort of support those, and give your opinion, but that's all it is, and just my feelings on the whole matter. So let's move on, shall we? Thank you all for joining me today, and let's see what we've got here. Quorum. Dun-dun-dun-dun. It's why I never swim in the ocean. Seeing Jaws as a kid will scare you for life. My mom would not let me go see Jaws because I was 11, and she said it's going to be too scary. And so I think that's part of the reason why Jaws is now my favorite movie, is because I was denied seeing it when everybody else in the neighborhood saw it. But it's also an excellent film. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Pastmaster Dan is here. Inconsequential Artist is here. Stealth X5 says, hail, welcome, Stealth. Repairman Jack, the Irish are so bad already. I'm pulling for Nebraska to cheer me up. Go Big Red. Thank you. That is, of course, the Nebraska football team is 3-0. The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame are a unfortunate 0-2 if you're a Notre Dame fan. But I will say, in all fairness, Notre Dame has played a couple of tough teams. Nebraska played one good team, Cincinnati, and then 2 cupcakes. So Nebraska plays Michigan this week, and I know nobody cares about this right now, but I'm just making a quick aside that so we'll find out how good our Huskers are here in a week or so. There's Randy Howell all the way from Canada. Pantheon's joining us. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is almost always here. Creative Fade joining us. Matthew Muma. Pity Ma is joining us. Pity Ma, I got your art finally sent out. I apologize again when all this stuff, I was just kind of grounded for a couple days, like most of us were, after, what happened on Wednesday. And but I did finally get it out. I apologize for being a little tardy on that. Randy Howell says, Wraith of God 3 update. Perchance page 65 is finished. Well, I could jump ahead and get right into that, but I'm going to wait. We're going to do things in order, in an orderly fashion. Let's see. There's Glitch from across the pond. How about that? Marcus Killer Group, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge. Ink on Paper is here. Jerry Rasco, Alex Art, Mark Pendrin joining us. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Rocky Macabre is with us. There's Phil Diaz hiding behind the Zaid Comics logo. You want to check out Phil's campaign he has on his own website. Now, it looks like pretty cool. It's like an image Western. So you want to check that out. Blue Neptune. Stealth X5, $2. Hello. Thank you, Stealth. Let's see. Rocky Macabre, and I think we need to see a little bit more. I'm not on the left. I am not on the left, and I didn't like him. I still don't think it was cool. Well, that's an understatement. Killing somebody is never a cool thing. Michelle Bowers is here. Alex Art. Some nice comments there. And let's see. No, of course. I was just focusing on that one item to make a point. But yes, you're right. The Civil War was about a lot more than slavery. Let's see here. Craig 69. Henry Thrune. You know, every time I see Henry Thrune, it makes me think of John Carter of Mars. Isn't a Thrune? Doesn't that sound like something from John Carter of Mars? Why do I think that? Was that in the movie? Were they called Thrunes or Thruns? I don't know, Henry. Is it Thrun or Thrune? I want to say Thrune, but it's probably Thrun, and then that throws the whole John Carter thing out the window. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. All righty. There's a where I live, there's a small kind of like old town area, and they have a main street. And today they had this little, it was really a farmer's market. They had a little music and had some booths set up, and it was like whatever community fair kind of thing or whatever. So my daughter and I went to check it out. And there's two things you're always looking for when you go to these: homemade dill pickles and some sort of pastry. And then hopefully the band that's playing is decent. So the band that was playing was called Glitter and Gasoline, I think. They were a cover band, and they were fine. I did get a jar of pickles, but the pickles cost me $18. But I did it anyway because, okay, there's two things. When I, like, wherever I go, like travel the country, whatever, if I go someplace to a restaurant and they have the option for a Reuben sandwich, I'll always try it because it's my favorite sandwich. And with corned beef, not with pastrami, that's a fake Reuben. Okay. So with corned beef, and I will try a Reuben wherever I go because I want to find the greatest Reuben in the United States, right? I don't know if that's a worldwide sandwich or not, but it's certainly something in the US, right? And I'm the same way when I go to fairs or Saturday markets or whatever. If someone's canning and dilling, I'm getting a jar of dill pickles and testing them out. And so I dropped $18 on a jar of dill pickles at this couple. They were, they pickled everything. They had pickled garlic, which I tried, and I thought, man, this is going to kill my breath for the next week. It was really good though. But I mean, who's going to sit around and eat garlic nuggets? But I did get the pickles, and they were pretty good. So I don't know, $18 good, but they were, you got to try it. And so anyway, my whole point is there's been a lot of recently donut sugary treat consumption. And man, I gotta pull back a little bit. So we're not, all that to say that we're not I'm not doing any snacks today. Now that doesn't mean that next week I won't be, but Rocky McCobb's like, cauliflower is only good pickled. Well, and if you have enough ranch on it, I used to, God, I hated like broccoli and cauliflower. And I remember when I was in high school and playing basketball, and I started becoming aware of the fact that, eating right might be a good idea to helping you stay in shape. And so my mom was always pushing broccoli and cauliflower on me. And I finally in high school relented and started eating it. And it's acquired taste like coffee or something like that. So, and I acquired the taste. I like broccoli and cauliflower now in stuff, broccoli raw, I'm okay with, but I still got to dip it in something, usually ranch, right? Or blue cheese is my go-to. And cauliflower is the same way. But if they're cooked and seasoned, I'll eat them just, without that. It's not even Halloween for the excuse. You know what, JS? Here's the problem. Actually, this is not the problem. what was I going to say? Oh, so, but it reminded me of something else. My daughter and I went to, the Spirits Halloween shops that are like only there in these big buildings for like 2 months, and then they disappear and they come back next year with the costumes and everything. Well, we went into one of those, and it's really weird because it's like a Disneyland for Satanists. It's like they have all these giant things that you step on the pedal on the floor and it activates it and it does whatever, these monsters or whatever. And it was so funny because my daughter, who's 23, she's not like a little kid, but she's like 15 feet away, and I was going up there and stepping on the button and these things would go, and get real big and jump. I got startled twice. One was this giant scarecrow looking thing, right? And he just was talking and talking and talking, once I pushed the button. So I was standing like right here listening to what it was saying. And then all of a sudden it just sprung up and went up like 15 feet in the air. And I was like, whoa, it almost clipped me. And then there was this grandma, right? And you push the button and her eyes lit up and her head turns like this, but her body doesn't. Her head just turns, like The Exorcist or something, and starts jabbering, whatever. And so I turned to my daughter and go, look at this. And at that point, the grandma thing swung her elbow around and clipped me in the head, well, right in the, the shoulder area here, and scared the crap out of me. So we had a good laugh at Spirits Halloween. That has nothing to do with candy, but it brought that to mind, so I thought I would share the story. Okay. No, I know. Broccoli, it smells like butt, and you're like, what is going on in this house? Yeah. I was preaching the gospel right to this skeleton guy. Okay. So anyway, but that now takes the place of our treats today. But we're going to jump into some Frazetta, I think, and see what our good friend Frank has to offer us this week. Let me apologize. Both the focus on either one of those was not particularly good. I could not find, I thought the color image was better resolution than it actually turned out to be. And then I didn't have time to go dig for another one. But anyway, I like that painting for a couple of reasons. One, I think the shark's pretty good, although a great white would have been cooler than that's a tiger shark, I believe, which is still pretty scary. I mean, let's face it, tiger sharks are probably more deadly to humans than great whites are. And then, of course, the chick's, the chick's butt is like white. Like, so apparently she's been running around the beach with like booty shorts on and nothing else, because everything else is tan, but her butt is just like day glow white. I just like the simplicity of that painting. I like the layout, the design, and I do like the figure. The female figure, I think, is pretty good. I like the way the hair is swirling, and I like the shark. Now it's funny, that was the second image you saw was a watercolor rough that then Doubleday used as promotional art, but it wasn't the finished art. It was the oil painting, which we saw first, and it was done in 1973. So that was before Jaws, which we're talking about today, by the way. That was before Jaws. So the great whites weren't probably as popular as they became after Jaws. So that may be why he chose a tiger shark instead of a great white. I don't know. But anyway, Okay, now we're saying that bull sharks are because they are more dangerous, which they are, because they are salt and freshwater sharks that like murky areas. Yeah, there was Lou Diamond Phillips was in like some movie. I don't know if it was like a cable it was either straight to TV or straight to cable movie, where the bull shark was attacking some people in Florida or something. I never watched it, but I'm sure it was awesome. Now let's see. Everybody's debating about who's the most dangerous shark. Iodine 74. That's not a tiger. It's a sand tiger. Okay, so there's a tiger shark, and then there's a sand tiger shark. Is that what you're telling me? I'm not a shark expert. I just like Jaws. That's all I'm saying. I don't really, although I've watched documentaries on sharks, but when they're not great whites, I get really bored. I'm like, show me more great whites. So Gemini Dragon, I think you're correct. Red Water was the movie. That's what it was called. And it was a bull, like a 12-foot bull shark or something was killing people. Which you think about it, it's funny. You think about the size of a shark and you go, because you think about Jaws, right? And you think about a 20-footer, 25, 3 tons of them. So great whites have never got to 25 recorded. I think 22 feet is the longest that they've ever captured, but that's, pretty darn big. And so we think of like 10 to 12 feet. We're like, 10 to 12 feet is like the height of a basketball hoop or higher. That is a big freaking fish with pointy teeth, it's Monty Python, like that rabbit in Monty Python. So, I think we lose a little bit of the imagination of these sharks when we think, oh, just 10, or like an alligator is only 10 or 12 feet long. That is freaking huge if you're standing next to it. But so anyway, I guess my point being, a 12-foot bull shark doesn't sound as scary as a 25-foot great white, but 12-foot bull shark in murky waters, not making me very comfortable. And I know there was a story, I think, where didn't a bull shark someplace, where was it at? I don't think was it New Jersey? I don't know. Where it made its way from the ocean up this river and some kids were swimming. I mean, it was way upriver. And one of them got killed by the bull shark. And they ended up, I don't know if they caught the shark, killed it, or if they flushed it out, or I don't know what happened, but it seems to me like I read a story like that. And this is not like, 1909 in the Jersey Shore. This was more recent, like in the last few years, like last 10 years, I guess. Well, there's a lot of, when they say Jaws was inspired by, they quote in the movie, they're talking about the great white attacks. I think there was 5 attacks within a week on the New Jersey beaches shore around 1905 or something like that. So, this bull shark attack may well be part of, all of it as well. I'm sure it was more than just one shark attack story. Paul Taylor says, and the guy went into the water and fought the shark. Yes, got the kid's body back and died himself. I agree with that. It's really dark and there's a lot of weird stuff down there that we don't even know about. Look how hard it is to find Bigfoot in the woods. What the heck is down in the dark down there? Is like that we don't even. Ooh, gives me the willies. I went scuba diving at the Great Barrier Reef in Australia and I was scared to death, but it was cool and I didn't get eaten, but I was looking over my shoulder the whole time. So anyway, there you go. All right. So I got a list of things here. Oh, now it's time for the Wraith of God 3 update, which Randy Howell brought up. I actually finished page 65, the last page to Wraith of God on Wednesday when Charlie Kirk was obviously assassinated. So I didn't post anything about it. And the next day I didn't post anything about it. I just thought this just feels wrong. So I just kind of waited until now. And I still haven't posted anything about it, but I will. So the book is done. All right. the black and white artwork is done. The last 15 pages that are yet to be colored have all been cleaned up, scanned and cleaned up, and sent to the colorist. So the colorist now has those pages. And I will be this coming week. I have multiple things going on, but I will be going over the script, doing my final changes or whatever on dialogue, and then getting the pages out to the letterer, start working on the lettering. And then while that's happening, I'm working on the trading cards that are the stretch goals that you guys get with the book. So let me show you a couple things, if I might. I'll show you one thing at the moment. Okay, so this hasn't been posted on the site yet, but that's the color artwork for the trunk trading card. So I just finished that yesterday. So I have the Garbage Man value stamp to finish coloring. It's been flatted. All I have to do is do the details. And then the sculpture, the other chick from the nightclub, that you get a free trading card with your order, free with your order. But anyway, so this is Trunk. He's the elephant guy from the nightclub. If you haven't read Wraith of God 2, there's a backup story in there of the nightclub featuring this character and really sort of his origin story and how he joins the team. So that's that. And so things are moving along here rapidly. And I assume I'll get the rest of the cards finished up and sent to the printer next week. I definitely will. And then I've got the Wraith of God Nouveau print that's available on the campaign. Those just came back from the printer. So I've got 94-year-old Nana Faithy working on those, getting those bagged up. And you guys were talking about the ocean. I don't know. Glitch wants to know, what about a third playing card? Well, let's be brutally honest. The campaign did not do nearly as well as I'd hoped it would do. So a lot of the stretch goals that I had planned, we just never got to. But that's the way it goes, man. What else do I have on the update? So yes, that's pretty much where we're at. I'll be closing the campaign down in, well, I can't imagine it being open more than 2 weeks at this point. I will keep it open until I get everything done and getting ready to, when the book is ready to send to the printer, that's when it'll shut down. But I would imagine that's going to be within the next couple of weeks. Depends on how quickly I get those last 15 pages of colors. Not to put any pressure on Jason. You know, I want him to do a good job, but we are in the home stretch, people. So you will be getting the book this fall. And now that we've given you a Wraith of God update, let's take a look at the perhaps the Wraith of God campaign might be a good thing to look at right now. There it is. Okay, so let me really emphasize the fact that this is going to be closing really, really soon. Again, the black and white artwork is completed, has been completed since Wednesday. The colorist has the last 15 pages, is working on those right now. We'll be getting pages off to the letterer hopefully next week. I assume next week would be good because I know that, like I said, most of the book is colored at this point. And so I can get all those pages lettered, but I have to go over the script and make sure that I make my dialogue changes. So anyway, what is this? This is a graphic novel. It's 65 pages in length. It's the third in a series of, we'll see, but it's an ongoing series. And this time the Wraith and Esther face the Headless Horseman. And we get a little bit more of the Wraith's backstory, things that happened to him as a kid. There's a new villain afoot. Who is he? Where did he come from? We get more information on that. Plus, we just have this like killer story of him and Esther going against this witch and the Headless Horseman. So it's fun, exciting, scary stuff, and you don't want to miss it. But you have 4 cover options. Wraith of God A here. That's the standard cover that I did. And this is Wraith of God cover option B. This is the EC variant, if you will. The 1972 Marvel variant, if you will. There's my dog getting after it. And then, of course, this great painted cover by Chris Stevens. These are the 4 cover options. You can get all 4 by ordering the featured perk right there. And you also get the sketchbook, which we'll look at here real closely. Here's some of the pages from the inside. I'm having my colorist, Jason Wright, change the sky color because it's too serene looking. I mean, this is the Wraith rearing back, getting ready for action. So I want that sky like red or orange or something that is just a little bit more intimidating than what we're seeing here. But those are the decisions you make editorially. We've got shirts here, you guys. These will be going in very soon because I think what he said my turnaround time is about a month. So it'll probably all come in at about the same time. But I may get these out the door a little bit sooner. But so don't delay. Buy your shirt today. You got the Bisley and the Keown, both really great designs and artwork. This is the value stamp that will be in the book on the editorial page. And so I got to color that. But that's the black and white artwork. And that black and white artwork is for sale right now as a perk that you can buy. The original art to the sculpture. That's this character's name. She's like this chick of stone, and not chick stone, but a girl made of stone. And the original artwork is available for that, the black and white. And I'm coloring that even as we speak. And this, of course, we just saw what the finished artwork looks like, the colored artwork for this trading card of Trunk, not Trump, but Trunk. And this original art is also available right here on this campaign if you're interested in any of these. This is the Wraith of God Nouveau print that I just got back from the printer. So I'm signing and numbering all these. My mom is bagging them, and they'll get rolled up and put in poster tubes. So that's cool. Wraith of God Roughs Volume 3. I got to get this book assembled too. Now that we're done, I got to scan all the 48 pages of roughs and get this book put together and off to the printers. So now I went from writer artist Aaron to editorial Aaron. So I'm putting on the different hat. Looks very much the same as this hat, and getting all this stuff wrangled, put together, getting it done, getting to the printer, and then of course there'll be mailman Aaron who'll get this shipped out and delivered to you as quickly as possible. Nightclub shot glass, that's number 4 in a series of 6 shot glasses. Of course, we have the Wraith, we have Garbage Man, we have Kit Carter, and now we have the Nightclub. Laser etched for your drinking enjoyment. Wraith of God poker chips, we've never done that before. It's kind of fun. So we got these 3, the Wraith, Esther, and Dale Keown's Werewolf. I got to get those to the chip people so they can print those up. There's a lot of printing going on here. And of course, you can still get the back issues of Wraith of God 1. This is the second printing, but it has a new cover, 2 cover options, actually, the black and white cover and the full color cover. And then, of course, the award-winning wraparound cover by me. I had to throw that in, of course, for Wraith of God 2. And the great thing about Wraith of God 2 is it has this big Wraith story in there where he's fighting this Nosferatu-type character. But there's also backup stories of Kit Carter. The first Kit Carter story is actually in this book. The Nightclub stories in this book, and another Garbage Man story is in this book. So it's like 103 pages. I mean, something bizarre like that. And a worth of story in this book. So you might, if you haven't picked this up, you might want to get both these, get caught up on your reading. You can order them on my website, or you can order them through the campaign. It's entirely up to you. The link is in the description of this The link is in the description of this video. They'll take you right to the campaign so you can back and order this. And again, guys, we're at the end of the line. This is going to be closing down very soon. If you haven't backed it, please consider doing so. There you go. Let me bring it to your attention here also that there's me. I do have a website, very easy to find. It's called aaronlopresti.com. There's a link in the description of this video. It has all sorts of stuff. You can, I've got a store where you can buy stuff. Empire Comics updates, which I'm going to have to do one soon now that Wraith is done. Our portfolio, if you just want to look at art, and my blog, which I never blog, but someday I will. And then you'll be going, gosh, I should have read that. If you go to the store here, you can shop now. And if you look up at the top, you've got store feature here, all products, prints, books, merchandise, or art for sale, covers, pinups, pages, sketches, illustrations, or just view all. So the books, it's everything Wraith related. It's everything Kit Carter related. We still have copies of Garbage Man, the trade paperback. If you haven't read that yet, you probably should. Saved from the Trash. Somebody just ordered one of these last week. A black and white sketchbook from 7 years ago, but one of my better ones, I think. You can still get copies of Power Cubed if you haven't. The Kit Carter sketchbook is still available. I have a couple of these ash cans, these Kit Carter Planet Doom ash cans. And I have a couple of these comic book price guides, which I did the cover for. And the Graybeard Studio sketchbook ash can is also still available. I have a few copies of that left. We'll wait. I've got sketches. I keep loading up new sketches all the time on here. So there's some new stuff. Actually, I'll be showing you later in this show, so we're not going to do it right now. But like I said, check out aaronlopresti.com, and you'll find all sorts of groovy stuff, prints, books, artwork. Do I have any new prints? This is the Mars print, which I did for San Diego. Of course, I have those. Are brand new. Wraith of God, or pardon me, Garbage Man prints, Wraith of God print, Freya of the Ice Kingdom. Who is that? You might be finding out sooner than later. Got some early Kit Carter, the Kit Carter movie still available. Wet Grass is kind of a fun one. Rosie the Riveteer, more Kit Carter, tons of prints. All of them come signed. Some of them are signed, not all of them, but all of them are signed. So anyway, I could go on all day about this, but we have a show to do. So anyway, thank you for supporting and backing Wraith of God and just Aaron Lopresti in general. I appreciate it. And this stuff is always available just a click away. So please check it out. Comics Legend says a great library of books. That is kind of fun when you sit there and go, oh, I've looked at all this stuff I've published. I guess it means you're doing something. Okay. But wait, there's more. All righty. Paul Taylor says, doesn't hurt to flog your wares. Flog? Okay. Well, let's talk about Jaws, shall we? Now, as you guys know, that this summer, I assume you know, this summer was the 50th anniversary of Jaws, the movie, obviously, not the book, but the movie. And it made it to the big screen again. And, you could see it in IMAX, you could see it in a regular big screen, whatever. I've seen it every time it comes out in the theaters. We have a local theater around here that I mentioned quite a bit that does, will run old movies, and they tend to run Jaws at least once every year. And I never miss it. And I've seen it in IMAX. I've seen it in every form possible. And it's pretty interesting that some people will go as far to say that they still think that it's Spielberg's best movie, and it's his second film, which my understanding was that really, for the longest time, really pissed him off. You know, it's like, what about Schindler's List? What about all this other great stuff he's done? But everybody keeps going back to Jaws that he did when he was, 25 years old. Denny for $4.99 says, at the end of Wraith 1, we saw him in modern times. Will there be a full-length Wraith story set then? Did we see him, Denny? Is that who we saw? That character is Mr. Midnight. But the question is, who is Mr. Midnight and what is his relationship to the Wraith? That has not been revealed yet. So will it be revealed? It might very well be revealed in the next Wraith comic. We shall see. We shall see. Thank you for asking, and thank you for the $4.99. All right. So they also came out with, now this is the classic Jaws poster. A fantastic book cover by Roger Castell that was then turned into a fantastic movie poster. Now, I don't have the original because it's too expensive, but I do have the original re-release of this, which now is also expensive, but not as expensive as the original. But I do have an original re-release from like 77 or something. And essentially the same poster, but it says, if you forgot what it was like, the original Jaws return, something like that. You would think I know what it says. It's hanging up downstairs, but So anyway, but they did issue a 50th anniversary Jaws poster, very similar to this, but it has like, there's several versions of it, and they're all like over $100, a couple $100 right now. And I was like, I wish I'd been smarter and even been aware that they might have a movie poster for it before it got expensive. But they may have already started that expensive. So I didn't really want to pay that much for, even though I kind of wouldn't mind having one. Somebody just did a re-release of the Jaws 2 movie poster, which I also think is great. The one with the girl on the, the skis and the sharks coming up behind her. I like that poster too. I think it's pretty good. But I got a re-release of that recently. One of these, it wasn't Mondo, but one of those poster places printed that, and I got it and hung it up. And as you can see behind me, the Fu Manchu poster is no longer sitting there because I hung that up as well. Just remember to obey Fu Manchu or every living thing will die. Just telling you. That's what it says. Okay. So the real question is, why is Jaws so endearing? Why is it perhaps the greatest horror slash adventure film of all time? And I would argue that it's because the shark didn't work that made this movie so great. And what do I mean by that? Well, you all know that the shark was made and tested in a freshwater pool or body of water in Universal Studios, and it works fine. It works great. They didn't test it in salt water, which is kind of dumb, but that is the case. And so they brought it to Martha's Vineyard, where they filmed this movie, and stuck it out in the ocean, and it screwed up all the inner workings of the shark. And so one of the great famous quotes that you always hear about is somebody coming over a walkie-talkie and saying, the shark isn't working, the shark isn't working. And so they had to do everything they could to film around the shark, and were quite frankly lucky to get the shark shots that they did get for the movie. So what it forced Spielberg to be is Alfred Hitchcock. Instead of this, we're going to see the shark all the time, and here's the monster, and oh, it's scary, and blah, blah, blah. It forced him to not show us the shark, which made the movie, I think, way more terrifying, because you don't really get to see it only a couple of times. And when you do, it's pretty frightening, pretty big. The moments are big when we see the shark, and the shark is big. But this is what it looked like. I believe they had two of these, one with each side open, like a left shark and a right shark, I think. Someone might correct me. I should know all this stuff because I've read all the books. I've seen the documentaries. In fact, there's a really good documentary called The Shark is Still Working. If you haven't seen that, check it out. It's quite good. And yes, as Past Master Dan points out, his name is Bruce, named after Spielberg's lawyer. So anyway, there is the mechanical shark. I would have liked to have seen, maybe they do something with this little right here, that latch right there that kind of made his jaw move. They could have done a better job of covering that up with some more latex or something so it didn't actually look like a fake joint right there. But all things considered, this was co-created by, a lot of people worked on it, but co-created by the guy who did the special effects for 2000, that created the squid for Giant Squid for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with Kirk Douglas and Peter Lorre and James Mason. And he was brought kind of out of retirement to work on this. And I think they did, considering certainly 1975. I mean, people always say, oh, the shark looks fake or whatever, but there's, I don't know. I'm still okay with it. I'm still okay with it. And now if we saw more of it, it might seem less real, but we don't see that much of it. And that, of course, is the brilliance of this movie, whether intentional or unintentional, through circumstances. Now, the other thing that makes this movie so freaking great is the characterization, the characters and the characterization, right? So let's take a look at this actually really quick here. This is near the end, spoiler, where Brody is kind of fighting the shark. So you see this that little hitch right there. They could have done something a little better to, or even smooth it out in post-production so it wasn't as clear. This works. I mean, it's still, I think I used to get in a fight with a friend of mine who was like, he didn't think Jaws was that great because he thought the shark looked fake. And we would get in big fights about it. And I was just like, it doesn't matter, because the shark looks good. It doesn't look great, I suppose, but it looks good. And the movie is so much more than just that. And by that, I mean, well, I want to show this first. This, of course, is the reveal of the shark, which is like one of the great reveal shots. I mean, you can say that looks pretty good. And this is, of course, when Brody's chumming the shark and it springs up. And I just saw a thing that was really interesting and I hadn't really noticed, but there's no music over this when the shark first appears, because as you know, this film has been set up to go dun, dun, dun every time the shark's around, right? Well, in this scene, that music isn't there. It just comes out of the water and scares the crap out of everybody. And then the music kind of comes in after we see the shark. So that was just one of the minor, nice little touch there. Love that scene. Of course, he backs in and says, you're going to need a bigger boat, which is one of the great, I guess, ad-lib lines. But the characters, right? You've got these very well-defined characters. You got Quint, who's crazy, and he's like Captain Ahab. You've got Matt Hooper, this young, idealistic oceanographer. You've got Brody, the guy who, the cop who left New York to get more peaceful life, and then he's, scared of the water and forced to go out there and hunt this shark. And they're all just really well developed. And great performances all the way around. It's not like you have like crap actors in this film. You have, Academy Award winners or nominees in every one of these actors. And a really, really well-written script that Peter Benchley wrote, but then Carl Gottlieb, who was the kind of chubby news guy from the town, he came in and rewrote and really tightened it up and got rid of all the soap opera crap that was in the novel, and got it really kind of concise and to the point, even though it's a 2-hour movie, but it moves. And this scene where Quint actually starts talking about his time on the Indianapolis was originally, it seems like 100 people wrote this, but John Milius did a pass on it. And I think Milius was the last one who did a pass on it, but it was way too long, right? And then Richard Shaw, who is also a very accomplished playwright, despite being a, alcoholic with some problems that, occurred on the set. He rewrote the scene. Finally, he was I believe, the last rewrite on that scene and got it kind of down and concise. And what a tremendous scene it is where, you got basically this monologue by Quint just talking about his experience on the Indianapolis and, I'll never put on a life vest again, and he's like, you ever notice a shark's eyes or black eyes, like a doll's eyes, lifeless, and he just, ugh. And he originally wanted to shoot this drunk, which Spielberg let him do, which was, of course, a huge mistake. And it was just a complete disaster. And then, so they had to carry him back to his hotel room because he was just slogging. The whole thing was a disaster. And then he did it the next day and did it really, really well and apologized, to Spielberg for being a drunk and all this kind of stuff. But it just adds to, of course, the legend and lore that goes around the movie. And of course, depends on who you talk to. The conflict between Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw was either, I've heard people say that that he needled him a little bit, but they were fine offset. And then I've heard other people say, no, I wasn't fine, that he was really after him the whole time. And so I don't know what the truth is, but it sure makes for a good story. And the final thing I want to mention, Spielberg did some really interesting and creative direction in this film. And it's really kind of a film school, how do we want to say? Like when I was in film school, they showed us The Road Warrior, because the instructors there felt that he thought it was better than Raiders of the Lost Ark in terms of a pure adventure film. And I'm not necessarily going to argue with them. From a technical standpoint, it was superb, The Road Warrior. And we broke down that shots and how images lined up and depth of field and mise en scène and all these kind of stuffy film school words. This is a great example of some really interesting things that Spielberg did in this film. This, of course, is the scene on the ferry when Brody's going out to get the kids or get their merit badges. They're doing swimming stuff, and they had just found the body of the first girl, the first victim, the remains washed up on the beach. So he's going to go warn them about the shark attack. And of course, the mayor comes out and, they have this whole conversation. The beginning of this shot, we're at the far end of the ferry, right? And so it's a long shot. And what you see happens is they're all having this conversation here, what we're seeing right now. But then the mayor kind of puts his arm on Brody and kind of leads him closer to the camera. And that's Carl Gottlieb right there, the guy with the chubby guy with the mustache there. And he comes with him, right? And so now we go from a long shot to a medium shot. And then he drops off, and then the mayor brings Brody into a close-up, right? So the camera never moves, but you're moving the actors in front of the camera to create these different shots, which is really very clever. And some of that stuff I stole in some of my student films, doing stuff like that, because it's really, really cool. You're creating depth in the frame without moving the camera. You're moving the actors. And of course, it ends up with a close-up where the mayor's like, Martin, you yell barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July. So that is one of these great scenes, and the way it's directed and laid out that you just kind of have to appreciate. You never want to break a film down while you're watching it for the first time because it ruins the whole experience. But after you've seen it a million times like I have, you start looking at this stuff. And stuff at the very beginning when Brody leaves his house. He wakes up in the morning and, he gets in his truck and his wife and his son are on the swing set, but there's this little door frame that leads out to where the car is parked and the white picket fence and everything. Well, he's perfectly framed in that doorway. So that doorway creates a frame for him as we're looking at him past the mom and the child. Just really nice visual direction and to go along with great performances. And that kind of stuff is all throughout the film. There's just so many clever camera shots that aren't really overt to the point where you're like, wow, okay, that's ridiculous. They're just really clever and well thought out, and they're peppered throughout the entire film. So it's really, really nice. There's a great shot on the boat where Brody's in the close-up and Hooper's just coming down, and then Brody backs up and Hooper comes into the foreground. So you're switching the emphasis on the close-ups and of the characters, and again by moving the characters, not the camera. Just some really, really nice stuff. When Brody's sitting on the beach watching when the little Kittner boy gets eaten, you've got people walking in front of the camera, and every time they do a wipe, we're closer to Brody, and it wipes, and then we're closer to Brody. It's just, that's a very Hitchcockian thing to do. If you look at Rope or some of those other movies that Hitchcock did, you find that kind of stuff in there. And so this whole movie is just like a, film school 101 type thing. So you can appreciate it on multiple levels. And, great musical score, Academy Award winning musical score. And then of course, just the fact that it's this action adventure monster film all rolled into one and just handled really, really well. And that is why, folks, Jaws is considered one of the top 100 films of all time, according to the American Film Institute and many other lists. I think it's in the 50s someplace. So those are my thoughts on Jaws and why I think it's so freaking awesome. And yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I think it was Billy Tucci in the audience. There he is. Hey, Stu, where'd you get that jacket? Don't know what he's talking about, but there you go. Yeah, Robert Shaw died in 1978. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they did the Deep with Jacqueline Bisset, and wasn't he in that? Pretty sure he was in that. Was Robert Shaw in the Deep? Why do I think he was in the Deep? I thought he had a part. It wasn't I think he was a supporting role in the Deep. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm not sure. That might have been his last movie. Or Black Sunday, or whatever those, terrorists in a blimp going to destroy the Super Bowl or whatever. One of those movies in like 78. Yeah, Nick Nolte was the lead with Jacqueline Bisset, and Louis Gossett Jr. was one of the bad guys. But I'm pretty sure that Robert Shaw was in that movie. There it is. Pity Moz confirming it. Robert Shaw was, in fact, in the Deep. We talked about it. So maybe on the Professionals. I can't remember, but I think I remember that film as being better than it actually was. I'd have to revisit it. I haven't seen it in forever. And then there was that pirate movie that Peter Benchley wrote called The Island. Michael, the guy who does everything, he was in Jaws 4. Michael Caine was in that, I guess. I don't know if that was any good. Yeah, so anyway. Okay, we're getting confirmation that yes, indeed, that Robert Shaw was in the Deep. So good. Everybody. If Pity Moss says so and Marcus Killigrew says so, then it must be true. So there you go. So that's and so like I said, we saw the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and it brought that up to mind. I could talk about Jaws all day. A great piece of work by Steven Spielberg. My wife got me this. It holds so much water, and it's red, like the big red, baby. Okay. So now, I did a little show. Okay. Yeah, he's saying the pirate thing, the island is terrible. Okay. I think it was like, didn't they like crash on an island that was inhabited by like generations of pirates that never, they were trapped on that island, and I don't know where they got the women from, but apparently they were still, behaving like insufferable pirates. Nothing like Muppet Treasure Island, which I kind of like the pirates in that one, but that's a tale for another time. Yeah, so I talked about, when I got back from San Diego, I talked about some of the stuff that I got. But there's been a mystery purchase. And we're going to get into that right now. So what happened was, there was this book. It was a really expensive book. I really wanted it, but I was like, man, I can't. I'll just say it. I can't drop $3,000. It was $3,000. And I was like, didn't have the money. So thankfully, the guy that had it was a dealer friend of mine. And I said, okay, what if I make a down payment at the show? Can you give me a couple months to pay this off? Would you hold it for me? And he's like, yeah, of course I will. So over the course of the last 3 months, 2.5 months, whatever it's been, I've been making payments, going on to Comicsgate Kings, doing sketches, selling them to you guys so I can pay for this book. Now you know the truth. And I finally got it paid off, and it showed up. So are you ready? All right, there it is, baby. Frazetta, Buck Rogers. Let's take it out of here. Now, the problem with these Frazetta books is you'd think they were all pretty much the same price, right? They were all in a row, all came out within, a year and a half of each other, I guess. This is a 5.0 with off-white pages. It was not bad. Okay, so this is my second favorite cover out of all these. He did like 13 of them, I think. And look at Buck Rogers' tight buttocks and this girl getting attacked by this octopus. I don't understand why. Would that laser work underwater? I don't know. But anyway, so this is what is this? 1955. So these books, it's a 5.0, which is a fine minus, basically. And I think it's a pretty nice fine minus. But each one of these varies widely in price because for some reason, some of them are available, some of them are not. There's only 77 copies of this that have been graded in any grade. So it's a pretty scarce book in that regard. And so this one is one of the more expensive covers. Now there's a few more that are like really ridiculously expensive, but that's why I can't get a really super high grade, or a high grade of these books are just too, I mean, an 8.5, I think, is around $11,000 for this book. So this is the second Frazetta Famous Funnies that I have now. And I don't know that I'll ever be able to get it anymore because they're so ridiculously expensive. And it pained me to buy this, but it's just been on my hit list for so long. And if you string it out and you do payments, it doesn't feel quite as bad, which is what I did. But there it is. David Williams is here. Hey, David. So anyway, that, once again, when your kids have graduated college and your cars are paid off You buy old comic books and don't tell your wife. No, Shelly knows. But yeah. So it's cool. I think it's cool. But anyway, so there you go. This is what I've been waiting for several months. And I got it done. And now I'm going to go stick it in a box and never look at it again. Of course, that's not true. And people will say, well, don't get a graded book. The only reason I got this is for the cover. So I would have no interest in opening it up because the insides are Frazetta did not do the insides. So, but he did a heck of a job on the outsides. So there you go. That has pretty much put an end to my comic book spending for a while. Paul Taylor says, I don't have a wife, so I avoid the drama. There was a great joke by this comedian. I'm going to ruin it, but you guys will get the idea. So he was looking at divorce rates, and he says, okay, number one divorce rates are lesbian couples. Number two are heterosexual couples, and the lowest divorce rate is gay men couples, right? And so he says, it's pretty obvious. He goes, because the lesbians, you have two women who you have to deal with, right? So that's why it whatever works out. And even heterosexual marriage, there's still one woman in the equation. So that causes problems. Then, of course, the gay men are the least likely to get divorced because there's no woman involved in the whole thing. So those of you women in the chat, I'm just joking, but it was kind of a funny joke. And Paul Taylor brought that to my mind. David says, Aaron, it was cool up until you ogled that man's tight butt. I was just pointing it out that he was putting on a butt flex. That's all I'm saying. I wasn't ogling. It just, being aware of it. There's GJ. Thanks for joining us. He says, it is good to see you, Aaron. Good to be seen. Thank you. I can't say I'm seeing you, GJ, but I know you're there. Can't wait to read Wraith of God 3 on your future projects. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much. Keep waiting for the Trump economy to kick in and get us, feeling better about the economy, so we can sell more books, and hopefully that will help as well. All right, so David Williams, who's in the chat, makes fun of me all the time because he thinks I draw too much. And he may be right, because I draw sometimes to the point where my hand hurts. But that leads me into, what have I been working on recently that you guys maybe don't know anything about? Yeah, we're going to open up the old flat files and see what I've got in there. Sometimes very often, I'll be through working for the day, it's 10 o'clock at night, thinking, I need to get to bed. I need to go to bed and get some sleep. And so I'll sit in front of the computer for a minute, and maybe I'll look at YouTube and see if there's any football videos I want to watch, or some commentary on something that's short and kind of wind me down. And then I look over to this table over here and I say, well, I've got this art pad sitting here. Maybe I'll just, as I'm watching this, I'll just flip this open, and well, I got a pencil right here. Maybe I'll just screw around here. And then before I know it, I've drawn something and it's midnight. I do that a lot. And so these books aren't actually, or these pieces aren't actually in my flat files. They're actually in my portfolio right now. But I did take some scans of them. So it started off with this guy. And I think some of you saw this. I posted this last week on social media, but Conan, right? And you can save the Rob Liefeld jokes. I didn't draw his feet. This was just on like a 9x12, and I was just kind of sketching around. So I don't know that I was necessarily intending to draw a finished piece. So I wasn't really trying to scale it and go, ooh, do I have enough room for his feet or whatever? I was just, and I've been wrestling with different approaches, right? Anytime you do a barbarian comic or a Western, for my money, like Wraith of God, it's kind of like you want the line work a little, you don't want it as slick as Kit Carter, right? And Matt Ryan inked that, tremendous inker. I loved it. But for something like this, I wanted a little more rough. I wanted a little more edgy, a little bit more gritty, as they used to say in the 90s. And I needed to get to a point where I'm using more blacks to define the shapes and create more volume. So that was my intent with this. So I was kind of messing around with it, and I had the deeper, darker shadows in this deltoid and down in the stomach and around the rib cage. And it's amazing, the black back here. Now it's broken up because I'm using a pen to kind of create kind of, I don't know, a texture. And so I'm always one of those guys that like draws the whole figure. And I don't want to cover up anything, right? So I drew the abs and I drew this. I don't want to cover up anything. But man, when you start placing heavy black shadowed areas, it really brings your drawing to life and really helps create a three-dimensional feel to it, and some depth, which is what we're desperately trying to do on a two-dimensional surface. That's the whole point of it, right? So I did that, and I thought I had a scan of it someplace, but I couldn't find the scan. I know I have a scan, but I don't know where I put it. So I'm just going to show you the original. If I can find it. I got a lot of sketches in this book, and they're all for sale, by the way. So then I did this one, right? Again, you can see no feet, because that really wasn't my point. Again, I was like, I wanted to drop some serious shadows in there to create some volume. And although the line work is sketchy, it's not as sketchy as the first one. So again, playing around with kind of a different approach, different style. This is all pen, by the way, as was the first one. And brush pens. But you can see by that dramatic lighting and those heavy shadow areas how much volume it helps create in his figure, where he just feels thick and heavy, right? So I did those, and so my daughter was like the other night going, let's watch a movie. And I'm like, nah, I got to go to bed. So I came up here and started drawing again. And then she came up like an hour later. It's like, we could have watched a movie. What are you doing? Let's say you're going to bed. And I said, well, I started drawing, and then I had to finish this. And I realized that I had never drawn Werewolf by Night, the Marvel Wolfman character. Now I have. Okay, and so this gets back to the same thing, using some heavy shadows in here, pens again, so it's kind of rough, kind of edgy style. I kind of like it. But again, these are, to me, sort of experimenting with using some more volume and more blacks to create volume. And how much, do I have enough guts to black in the whole side of his, body? I mean, I could have done that, but I'm still kind of cowardly, because you put all that work into the drawing, it's like, I can't just cover it all up. So you can't go totally Mignola or, Finch does it so well. And that's actually where I got the idea. He did this drawing of Werewolf by Night in one of his books, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And so I said, I've never drawn Werewolf by Night. So I did. I didn't copy his pose or anything, but that did kind of inspire me to kind of tackle this. Pity Maw getting a little racy says, wow, the werewolf had a nice package. Wow. Yeah, it's a full moon, baby. It's a full moon. Based on me, of course. Paul Taylor for 10. Thank you, Paul. Says, although Andy probably wouldn't like the competition, have you ever considered doing a barbarian comic? Yeah, I have. I have indeed considered it. I've been more than considered it. But let's not get into that right now. That's a conversation for a few weeks down the road. But anyway, this is the kind of thing I do. I sit around at night and I draw stuff like this. And I call it practice and enjoyment. Because I mean, I usually don't just draw something to draw it. I draw it with the intent to, maybe I should work on this. What would it look like if I did this? And a lot of times those drawings don't turn out. They're all just crap. But sometimes they do turn out. And that's when I show them to you. Because why would I show you my bad drawings? Glitch says, that's a great drawing of John Malin. The werewolf's name was Jack. It was the name of the dog. What's it called? Is Jack Russell was the name of the werewolf guy. His name was Jack Russell. That's also the name of a dog breed. Just coincidence? I think not. Nicholas Gear's like, send me the bad drawings. This is on 9x12. I have it right here in the old front of the book. Right there it is. I even signed it, which makes it totally authentic. You guys see my latest man thing? See, I'll draw the man thing too. And of course, we've seen the Fire and Ice piece, but I still love this piece. I don't really want to sell it, but it's there because, got to eat, right? There's another man thing and a Chenoo. On brown paper, which makes it even more artistic. Look at Pogo smoking in the swamp with his Pogo buddies. And of course, that's acrylic painting of Red Sonja. Do all sorts of things around here. Amazing. It's amazing that I still have that Spider-Man piece, but there it is. Amazing Spider-Man right there. I did the Juggernaut on Graybeards, I think. These are all this is my 9x12 book. I also have an 11x14 book. So, but anyway. So there you go. That's what's in my flat files this week. But now, enough about me. Let's see what Bill Sienkiewicz has to offer us, shall we? When I said that, I was supposed to go right into the intro, and I didn't do a very good job here. Let's see what Bill Sienkiewicz has to offer us. I was in a comic shop back in the 90s one time, and I was still a wee lad. It might have been late 80s, early 90s, but I was still like working on, I think maybe I'd done a couple issues of What The or something, but nothing else. And I was talking to some comic shop guy, and I said, yeah, there's something about Bill Sienkiewicz. And he goes, you mean Sienkiewicz? There's nothing worse. This drives me nuts. It's people that think they know stuff and they don't, and then they just make fools of themselves by doubling down on it. So anyway, it is Sienkiewicz, and it's not Sienkiewicz, even though that's what it looks like. So, Bill Sienkiewicz. There you go. Well, that's how it's spelled, but it's not how it's pronounced. Don't be arguing with people when you're wrong, okay? Or you could be wrong. So that's all I'm saying. Because I've done it myself, and it's so embarrassing when you have to admit you were wrong after making an ass of yourself. So I try to avoid that, but I do know that it's Bill Sienkiewicz because he said so. And I take him at his word. He ought to know how to pronounce his name. Okay, none of these are in any particular order. Let's just take a look at some of my favorite covers by the dude. How about this one? You guys remember this story arc? This was right after, I'm pretty sure this was right after the Spider-Man Zek story with Kraven the Hunter, The Last Hunt. And so that was really hot, right? And so then they started doing these 3 or 4 or 5 part stories or whatever. And you're like, oh, this is going to be the next thing. So I saw this, and I mean, there's not much to it, but I think it's a really kind of, I love the design. And I think Sienkiewicz does a really good job most of the time. Not all the time. Nobody's perfect, but with his design elements of his cover work. And you have to get past, with Bill's work, you sort of have to get past that idea that, well, this doesn't look like John Buscema. That doesn't look, you know what I mean? It's like he's doing something funky, and you either got to go with it or totally reject it. And I started getting into it, and I kind of like that sort of funky element he brings to this. See, if I would have drawn this, I would have done all the cross hatching, but I would have tried to draw this Spider-Man back here in a straitjacket. I would have tried to draw it more like, well, what if Romita drew it? And it's like, that's not what you want here. It doesn't really go with what he's trying to accomplish here. And this kind of style, his approach does. And so anyway, this was kind of memorable. Oh my gosh. Memorable to me for that reason. Sean Clancy, Sean's a big art collector, has a lot of my art. And I'm glad that I can sort of join him here. I pronounced him the Submariner. That's what I said as a kid growing up, until I was ruthlessly mocked by the neighborhood kids who also collected, saying it's Submariner, you dummy. And I was like so embarrassed. It was like Magneto. I always pronounced it Magneto until I was, corrected. So that's how you learn to keep your mouth shut growing up when you do stuff like that. But anyway, thanks for joining us, Sean. Rocky McCobb says, always liked his work, even if he is yeah. Sometimes you just got to look at the art and leave the other stuff to, So anyway, that's all we're doing. We're looking at the art. I always like this. Now, this is another, how many people could get away with doing a black and white cover and Marvel going, no, it's got to be color. It's got to be color. And now, granted, Moon Knight is black and white. And this is still, you can see Bill is sort of transitioning from his, careful, he's transitioning from his Neil Adams stage to his funky weirdo stage. And this is another, I just think it's a great design again. Really, this is the purpose of doing a cover is to get people's attention so they pick up the book and hopefully buy it. This is the type of cover that would grab your attention. And Moon Knight, for whatever reason, one of the coolest looking characters, along with Silver Surfer, but one of the most unpopular cool characters you'll ever find. So they're doing everything they can to sell these books. And I think this is a nice, really nice designed cover. And so it's on my list. What can I tell you? This is just so... So what you got going on here, you got sort of an orange, blue, yellow, purple complementary going on, right? So all your characters, your new mutants here are all sort of orangish red in the middle, surrounded by this cool blue violet in the background, which works really, really well. Now they call them complementary colors, but the truth be known, the reason they're on the opposite ends of the color wheel is because there's no orange, yellow, and blue, purple. They're completely opposite each other's. And so it's weird to call them complementary when you should be calling them opposites, but it's because they're opposites that they go together like that and work really well. Just one, your key color has to be the strong color. The other one has to be muted. You can't do hot on hot. And, but anyway, that's, this isn't a painting demo. This is just me talking. And I don't know, is this supposed to be Mojo up here? I don't know. Like his weird interpretation of Mojo or something else. Is that Warlock maybe going nuts? No, Warlock's right here. But anyway, I like this cover because I like the color. And I like how you've got this weird creature thing sort of framing your whole team here. I thought very successful cover, really kind of grabbed my attention. Randy Howell, Magneto and Titanium Man is a song by Paul McCartney from 1975. I know that he's in that song. And I always think that was cool when I was a kid. I was like, is he talking about Marvel superheroes? Okay. This is just so outrageous. I just kind of liked it. And another New Mutants, but look at that bear. I mean, that bear is just like, are you kidding me? But again, what's the purpose of a cover? The purpose of a cover is to grab your freaking attention and make you pick it up and say, I'm buying this. And as funky and as weird as this is, there's something about this. It's like, that bear is nuts, man. I got to see what's going on here. Because you wouldn't think, oh, they're fighting a bear. But this bear, okay, I've got to go see. And so I find this cover, I find it amusing, but at the same time, I find it really sort of, if you line up all of his covers, this one jumps out. So there it is. And some of you may remember that Neil Adams did the artwork for the movie poster Grizzly, which I don't own because it's like too expensive now. And it's like, if I saw it at a con in decent shape for like $100, $150 and I'd done well at the show, I'd buy it. But I see it on eBay. I'm like, nah, I'm not spending $150 on that. So anyway, Big Bear. Now, remember when Chaykin did his Shadow series, miniseries for DC? And then they spun it off. Oh, and they had Sienkiewicz doing the covers. I like this because it's simple. It's dark, and then you got these two red hot lights blasting at you. That again, I wouldn't have. I read the Chaykin series, and I liked it a lot. And I am kind of a pulp fan, but I wouldn't have picked up the regular. I wouldn't have picked up the regular series if this cover wasn't what it was. It really made me go, whoa. So it's not much more than a close-up, but it's just it's wonky because that was, Sienkiewicz was doing his wonky stuff. But color-wise, it's really sort of dramatic and interesting. So, and that nice little white highlight on the helm, the hat here. You get some of the detail of the face, but not a lot. Then you get these two blasting gunshots. I don't know. Made me want to pick it up. So it must have worked. Now this one, I bought this too. So I guess whatever he was doing something right. But I thought this was so outrageous, right? Almost heavy metal-esque. It's like, there's no way that gun weighs more than she does. But it's so outrageous that I was like, all right, I'm going to read this. was written by Frank, drawn by Bill. So you're kind of like, okay, this is going to be weird enough that the thing I liked about Sienkiewicz that I didn't really like about, say, someone like Dave McKeon or somebody, Dave McKeon's stuff got so weird, I had a hard time following it. Sienkiewicz is so grounded in normal comic book art that even though his stuff is weird, there's still, you can still connect the dots while you're reading it. And where I found like Dave McKeon's or stuff like, you know, some of that stuff was just so bizarre. I couldn't even follow what was going on, just visually. And so Bill's stuff was really weird, but it still had a nice, I don't know, comic book feel to it that I could look at the drawings and understand what was going on. And like I said, this is just a freaking outrageous cover. But what does he do? He takes an all white cover, puts her in red, you know, so right, your eye is drawn to it immediately. But then she's got this big freaking gun, and you're just kind of like, all right, this is so over the top. I got to check it out. And I did. Now this is a newer piece, I think. I'd never seen this one before, but I really liked it. So I put it on this list. I mean, it's interesting that you've got a cover that's almost entirely black around the top and the edges, and yet we don't lose Daredevil. Why? Because he puts him in his all black, but he puts him behind the lighted area, right? And his head crops over the top of the Daredevil logo. His gloves are red over the top of this black, so he doesn't get lost. And then he has this really sort of what I think is a cool illustration of Elektra. So this is a more recent thing, but that's, I don't know, man. I thought it was pretty cool. You know, you got this hot light on Elektra, so you don't lose her. You know, she stands out, but then you still don't lose Daredevil. He's back there. He's secondary, but he's still there prominently in his own book, or prominently enough because it is his book. So you don't want to like have him not be on the cover. But again, well designed, well executed. This is kind of going back. Well, it was 86. I guess that is a while ago now. I always liked this because Batman is so funky in this. You know, Robin's weird looking, but it's that Batman is so funky that I'm like, I gotta get this. You know, his shoulders being completely square. They're not even. The whole thing is cattywampus, weird. I kind of like that Joker face back here. I guess is that just a bat, or is it man bat? I think that's just a bat. But I just remember seeing this and just going, well, you know what I would have liked to see, which would have suited this well, is if he had bigger hands that were more claw-like down here. I think if they stretched down a little bit. But, you know, I still really like this cover. It has some great stuff in it, too, by a lot of really good artists. Unfortunately, Stephen King's in it, but you can't have everything. But Art Adams has like a couple of really nice pages, one or two. Is there like 2 or 3, 1, 2, 3 pages in there of Killer Crocs in it? That's really kind of cool. You know, Rude's in there because there's just tons of pinups, right? And I think each one did a couple pages or something like that. God, I'd have to go crack open my copy, which I have, but not graded, so I can just I can open it up and look through it. But again, I think, you know, a lot of people, when Bill started doing this, a lot of people sort of rejected it. They were like, what is he doing? I don't understand this at all. But then the more he kept doing it, the more we said, you know what? Okay, I can go with this. And, you know, and then start seeing elements about it that are really kind of cool. And so, yeah, this is really freaking weird. And I would never think to do this, but I'm kind of jealous of that, of him, that he thinks to do this. And I don't think to do that. I'm too freaking conventional, man. All right. Enough about me. Back to Bill. This is a relatively new one too, but it's really cool, I think. It's almost like he's a chess piece or something, I just love the starkness of it. I love the design. How this comes down like this. Like I said, he almost feels like a game board piece or something, a Hero Clicks or something, in the way the pose and everything. It's completely stylized. It's completely for the sake of the design. But it's just, again, it's very stark. It's very cool. I see stuff like that. And, Hickman Bocello. Did Bocello work on this? That's interesting. If I was a comic book reader of Marvel and DC, which I'm not anymore, and haven't been for quite some time, to be honest with you, but even when I was working for him, I didn't really read the books that much. But this is, again, as a buyer, I would buy this book just because of that cover. We're going to get a few more Moon Knights here. Now, this one's very simple, but very effective. Again, I remember when this came out, everybody was like, ooh, So you got this werewolf story, and you got the eyes, the teeth, the blood dripping out of the mouth on Moon Knight's little thingy that he throws at people. His batarang. Let's face it, Moon Knight is Batman, except he's wearing all white. Even his aura, right? I mean, isn't he like a rich guy with a butler? I mean, he is Batman. But an all black cover always grabs your attention. And if you're the artist, if you can get away with doing this, and you think to do it and can get away with doing it, it's pretty amazing. You can get cover rate and do something that you can have done in a couple hours. But again, it shouldn't necessarily be how much time you put into it. It's how much thought you put into it. And I think you put a lot of thought into this, and I think it's a great idea. And it works really, really well. Leg Kick says he really like Moon Knight's issue 25 cover. There's a lot of really good covers, but again, I'm not going to show them all. I'll just show some highlights from me. This one I think is cool too. You guys have to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but this looks like, I'm not even sure what this is, but I know he did a cover like this, but I'm pretty sure it was pen and ink. Didn't he do an exact cover of this, like on the regular series? And then this looks like it's for maybe a trade or something, and it looks like he redid it. Now, maybe I'm mistaken. But he did a lot of black and white covers and great use of negative space on these Moon Knight covers. And this is another really good example of that. And plus, man, when you draw like this, like him and Mignola, it's like your inking doesn't have to be great. So, you don't have to be Gary Martin going there. Yeah. It's just like, and that's what I'm trying to get to. Because I do, when I draw something, I'll sit there and pencil it, draw it. I remember this through my whole career. I feel pretty good about the pencils. I send them off to the inker, and they just don't look as good to me. And then they get colored, and they look even worse. And then now I look at stuff like 5 or 10 years ago, like my Justice League International stuff, and I think it looks really, really nice. So, being away from it changes my opinion. But one of the things that I always felt my work was missing, regardless of how well it was inked, unless Danny Mickey inked it, because Danny brings this sort of rough edge energy to his inking. And this stuff that like Sienkiewicz is doing feels like a pencil sketch, but it's inked. So it still has that energy, feels alive. It doesn't feel like overworked, and it may be really slick and the, you know, the lines are perfect and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't have that energy. And that's why I keep trying to figure out a way I can bring that to my work a little bit, not to be sloppier necessarily, but to give me that pencil energy, but give it to me with an ink line. And you have to be a little bit daring to do that, because most people like that really sort of slick, really finished, polished work like you'd see in, say, Kit Carter. My stuff in Wraith of God is much rougher, right? And I even catch myself going, ooh, is that too rough? That, you know. But, you know, it's all part of this sort of next stage of my career, trying to figure it out, because I don't think anybody wants to sit there and do the exact same thing unless you start off as a genius like Wrightson or, you know, somebody like that, you know, then it's just impossible to keep it up. But if you start off sucking like I did, and then you turn into something over time, and then you just kind of want to continue to get better, and that doesn't necessarily mean make the drawing more perfect. But to me right now, it's like creating more volume and more energy in the drawing. And that's why I've sort of I don't use brush that much anymore, because it tends to be too slick and soft and kind of loses some of that energy that I'm trying to find. So, all right, I'm using this one last. I'm not going to say this is his best cover, but doggone it, this is a freaking awesome cover, and it's not even that old. I really like this cover. Now, I was fortunate enough to get to do one of these Dark Knight 3 covers. There was like 100 of them. And Bill's is better, I admit it. But I really like this cover a lot. I mean, this is something, if I had the money, and, you know, obviously I had enough money to buy that comic book, but this would be a lot more than $3,000. Because if this was $3,000, I'd buy it in a second and worry about how to pay for it later. But I would buy this painting. I just think just the weight, the horse, just everything about this piece, I just think is awesome. Art of Roy, challenging me to do more ink wash drawings. I don't disagree with you, Roy. I think that's actually a good idea. Comics Legend says, I think the same thing that I get from his artwork is he creates a mood and a feeling through the art. Indeed. And one of the things that a lot of like traditionalists like myself, it's all about the, you know, the line quality and how well is it drawn and all this kind of stuff. And when I say how well is it drawn, meaning is it accurate to my reality as much as I can make it for a comic book, right? And you start getting caught up in the technique, and you lose sight sometimes of what's the emotional response I'm getting from this artwork. See, the first thing when I look at this, I don't go, well, that one shoulder's not as wide as the other shoulder, and he's kind of off-centered and cattywampus and blah, blah, blah. And that's really sketchy and messy. No, what I see is I see the weight of the character. I see the emotion, the drama in it. I'm not even thinking about technique, right? So I'm getting a visceral response from this artwork, and it's not about the technique at all. And I mean, it is about the technique, but it's not about the refinement of the drawing and the it's a looser, wilder, impressionistic approach. And it's more intuitive and less follow the rules. And that's a lot of times, that's when you'll find this really cool stuff. And that's why Sienkiewicz is successful and I'm not. But I'm still working on it. So, you know, we'll see. Give me a little more time. But anyway, I think that's a really cool piece right there. It's one of those pieces you look at and go, not only do I look at it and say, oh, I really like that. I look at it and say, I wish I'd done that. And there you go. Although I don't know that I'm capable of doing anatomy like that. I would be fixing it, and it's like, you got to, no, don't leave it. So anyway, well, what else we got on the old list here? I got to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. We've covered a lot of ground here. Oh yeah. I think there's something we need to do. We need to go deep into the woods on this one. Now, admittedly, it's getting harder and harder to find even bad Bigfoot videos. So I had to kind of spread the net out a little bit. And we're going to draw on a few different varying cryptids today. So this segment is kind of like the variety show of cryptids. It's not just Bigfoot. So let's take a look and see what we've got today. Now, I want to start this off by showing you guys what actual trail cam, undoctored trail cam video should look like, even at night. Okay. So these are a pack of wolves in front of a trail camera, right? Now, is anything blurry? Like, even this dude way back in the background here, you can see pretty clearly that's a wolf. And these guys. Okay, so why is it every time we see a Bigfoot trail cam video, it's blurry? But look at these guys. They're sharp. They're clean. Look at that. Look at that wolf right up here, that eyeball. I'm just throwing it out there, saying why can't we see that? And of course, I think you all know the answer, because they're a bunch of liars trying to trick us. But we're still going to go see, maybe we can find some truth out there. All right, so of course you've all heard of the Legend of Boggy Creek, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a movie in the 70s. And it was a Bigfoot movie, kind of based on actual events. And I want to say that Dawn Wells from Gilligan's Island was in it. Was that the one she was in, The Legend of Boggy Creek? She was in one of those weird movies. Somebody help me out. I think it was Dawn Wells. But anyway, so here's a video of the Boggy Creek monster, allegedly, not from the movie, of course, but some people out in wherever Boggy Creek is. I guess they're filming this on their phone out in the woods, but they have, I don't know, that's a pretty bright light. Is it car lights? Is it movie lights maybe? I don't know. Let's see. Now, let's look back here. See what we see. I know they're coming. There they are. Okay, so why are we getting this intro like this? We don't see anything, and then boom, watch it switch right there. Whatever. Okay, so there they are, right there, right there, right there. Did you see them? And then we don't see him anymore. Let's watch this again. There he is. And there's two of them. It's a couple. Are they, is this a married couple? Do Bigfoots, do they mate for life maybe? Maybe just a couple of Bigfoot friends out late at night? Seeing their eyes are glowing because they look right at the camera, because there's like, what's that strange light out there? Why are these people filming us? Yeah, and notice how fuzzy and blurry they are. They're not like the wolf pack. Okay, let's see here. So it's hard to know. Look at, oh. It's hard. Does that look like Sigmund and the Sea Monsters? Remember that television show in the 60s? Does that kind of look like Sigmund? Oh, Sigmund was a kid with the red hair. But the lead sea monster, wasn't it? I don't know. So are these guys in costumes? Is it added later? Is it the real thing? It kind of looks maybe like Cousin It, maybe a little bit. I don't know. It doesn't really seem to have a face. It has the two glowing eyes and like kind of a hippie haircut from the early 70s, maybe. They're kind of hunched over, so at least there's a little bit of performance art going on here. It's not that they're just like walking straight up and down. At least they're kind of like hunched over, like maybe a caveman might be or something. Well, no, wait a minute. Well, at least it isn't blurry. Well, it's fuzzy. Blue Neptune says real Wookiees would not mess with the light. Bigfoot is wandering the drunk after finding Kelsey's still. Or yeah, his okay. So you're saying that's where Kelsey's at? He's moonshining? Philbo says wait a minute. Why do I keep hitting the wrong one? Philbo says Sigmund the sea monster. No, it was Sigmund and the sea monsters. I'm almost positive. Someone check on that for me. But yeah, Johnny Whitaker was the red-haired kid. He was like in all those Saturday morning shows, and then I don't know what happened to him. Eric Boyd says that it looks like they were added in. Let's see. Smudgy and Fuzzy. Certainly no wolf pack on the train for sure on the trail cam. Randy Howell. Now I don't know where in Canada he lives. Maybe out in the deep woods, but he's saying there's good money in moonshine. So I don't know. Randy might know stuff. Anyway, so, they look a little translucent. That's what kind of gets me, is like they maybe were kind of added in there later. I don't know. But you got to ask yourself, where is this giant light from off camera coming? Is that their car light? Because it's up pretty high in the trees. Look how high that light is. It makes me feel like they've had like a spotlight out there specifically for filming something. But what do I know? Okay. Now, I feel like I say this way too often, but I almost feel that I'm insulting you by showing you this. But I got to show you something, right? So, okay, this is the devil dog of some sort. This is a if this isn't a dude in a mask, a paper mache mask, I don't know what is. But to expect, they blinked though, to expect us to somehow accept this as a real thing. And that's the other thing with cryptids, right? They're always like, is this a dog man or is it some new cryptid species we've never seen before? Like they're just popping up all over the place. Cryptids that we've never heard of before. And suddenly there it is. So this is apparently a guy in a blanket with a paper mache mask. And I guess he blinked inside the mask, right? Or maybe it's a puppet of some kind. I don't know, but it's not really moving. It doesn't really have a face, right? And the horns aren't symmetrical. So I kind of feel like it's a paper mache mask. I'm kind of feeling that, but I could be completely wrong. This could be an all new cryptid that none of us have ever seen before because the footage looks very authentic. Saying it's a mountain lion. It doesn't even have a face. That's the same wolf from the trail cam. There we go. Now this one I like. Hot Mr. Cyan says Eeyore. That's definitely Devil Eeyore. Mothman. Ooh, I hadn't thought of that, but Mothman would have wings, wouldn't he? Wouldn't he be flying in maybe? This is cool, Aaron. I don't know if he's being serious or not. Okay, Phil Bo's giving me the road. Okay, so Johnny and Scott were the kids. Sigmund, Blurp, and Slurp were the sea monsters. So it was Sigmund was the main sea monster and his sea monster friend. So it's Sigmund and the sea monsters, right? And so Johnny and Scott were the kids. Okay, I got you now. GJ says, I actually do feel insulted. I feel bad that I had to show this to you. Look at people are a wild pig. A wild paper mache mask is the only thing I'm accepting at this point. Hulk Smash says, now I'm just embarrassing myself. Hot Mr. Cyan wants to know, is Mothman a caterpillar at first? So he'd be Caterpillar Man and then becomes Mothman? Interesting. Yeah, I really did. I wonder if that speaks to my personality. Like sometimes I'll go to bed. Like if we had this conversation about Sigmund and the Sea Monsters and I didn't have an answer for it, and I would go to bed and it would just be grinding in my mind. And I have to get up, get on the internet or get on my phone and find out. But now I know. So I don't have to do that. But GJ says the eyes do look a little creepy. If you look at it like this, okay, so like just say this is the nose and there's the eyes and these are the ears. Isn't it that dog from the Budweiser commercials? He's also, they used him in the Target commercials for a while. A bull terrier, that's what they are, right? Just saying it's a possibility. All right. Yeah. I've labeled this, what is this? Okay. It's apparently in someone's backyard. Apparently. Well, all I got is a still photo of this, but could you take, let's just say this was real. Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just say this is real. Could you take a worse picture? Is it humanly possible to take a worse picture than this? I don't even know what I'm looking at. I mean, I would assume these are his eyes here, and there's his pointy ears, right? And he got a look at forehead. He has my forehead. He has a little more hair than I do. Is this the mouth here? Is that a big nose? The snout, or is that the nose right there? And this is the mouth. I mean, what in the world? This looks like a Delacroix painting back here. This background. This is like just brush strokes. I mean, what in the world are we even looking at? Dale Saints, Pigman Jerry, Pigman, of course, that's from Seinfeld. GJ says this Dracula on crack. Oh my gosh. Rancor X says that's watercolor. Who would paint this? What is it? Oh, Biblio Bob, is that Anna cosplaying? Oh, poor Anna. JC Vaughn is confirming it is not humanly possible to take a worse photo. However, I think it's my 9th grade gym teacher. Well, so even this is the worst picture known to mankind. It's ever been taken. And yet JC Vaughn can still identify it as his gym teacher. I think that's pretty remarkable. I think JC, that you should be working for the FBI. Like, do those, what do they call them? What's the show, with Scott Bakula in it? What do they call that? CSI or whatever, right? That's what you need to be. Okay. Blue Neptune says this is a chimp crossed bred with a rawhead Rex. I don't know what a rawhead Rex is. Is that from the new Jurassic Park movie? I don't know. Will Holloway said that's Merv's final form. I think he meant Merv from Kit Carter. So this is what Merv would look like if he was out in space without his space helmet on. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. Yeah, there we go. JC NCIS. Okay, there it is. That's what you should be doing. If you can identify from this photograph, that's where you should be working. You should be the guy that they come in, and you're in that really kind of high-tech room, and you've got the computer screen and you're doing this, typing away, and you're pixelating the picture and bringing it together, and then it forms into, something. That would be your role on the show. I don't know why I'm laughing at your stupid jokes, JC, but I thought NCIS New Orleans should have gone up against a vampire-esque killer, and it's Bacula versus Dracula. I love it. Now, of course, JC Vaughn has his Al Capone vampire series, which I've done a cover for. And so I don't know where all that stuff's available, but at the moment, but those books are out there. And so you should check them out. Give JC a plug there. Okay, Aaron Leprosy. Rawhead Rex was an 80s horror movie from Ireland. Okay. All right. I'll accept that. Rawhead Rex. Okay, now I've got to look that up. I will look that up. All right. All right. So all right. More okay, I'm sorry. But here we go. They're suggesting this is a Wendigo. I mean, I don't even know what that means anymore, but here we go. This, of course, from the website Nightmare Fuel, in case you want to go check it out for yourself. Look at what? Is that a ghost? That's the ghost of the Wendigo. Okay. My first thought when I saw it, I go, that looks like an Indian wearing one of those big buffalo helmet things with the horns on it, right? Like a shaman. Here he comes again. Of course, the problem with this thing is, if we slow this down, let's slow it down right to there. That's a dude walking with a hat on and some sort of headdress on or something. And it's so easy now, like, to do this on like your Photoshop program or whatever, that I can't even remotely take this seriously. He does seem to have a little gimp, like a little gimp in his so that makes me think that maybe this is actually a computer generated image, because it's not really walking like a normal dude. So like you filmed a guy doing this and then you made a ghost image of it and superimposed it over this background. The walking seems a little rough. So I'm going to go bad Photoshop, or bad, what do you call it? Whatever the editing program would be. Wouldn't be Photoshop, but it would be, come on, go. There we go. You know, I know these guys are just trying to produce content for their YouTube channels or whatever, but come on, man. Give me something that I can go, ooh, that looks kind of cool. This just is stupid. And if anybody is, come on, guys, expect more from your cryptid videos. That's all. Just expect more. JC Vaughn says it's not even fake bad Photoshop. It's fake, really bad Photoshop. Yeah. Now a silent spirit says ghost of the Capra demon. Now, I know who Frank Capra, the director, is, but I don't know the Capra demon. See, there's all sorts of weird cryptid legends out there that we haven't even touched the base on. I still need to follow up on the melon heads, because that to me is of great interest, that these cannibalistic children with giant heads living in the woods of Pennsylvania. Come on, man. That's good stuff right there. There's Randy also. Sign up to Dead Inspector by JC Vaughn. There you go. Dead. A lot of vampire and dead people in JC's comics. All right. So you guys all remember, of course, John Carpenter's The Thing. I think I found some video. Now this is from Peru, so you know what goes on in South America stays in South America. There's my own cryptid back there, Husker walking around. Okay, so you tell me, is this John Carpenter's The Thing? Let's watch. Okay, so you see the dog running there. He gets right there and then comes out and he becomes a man like that. Look at that. And he's forming like as he's walking. Now, I know this isn't in the snow. It's like in like South America someplace, but it's at night. And I think the white stuff jumping in front of the camera, those are bugs. So, but this looks like snow, right? So this looks like it could be an actual scene from the thing. So let's break this down, okay? Okay, so what we're looking for here is there's a dog right there, or so we think is a dog, okay? Running it. Now just pretend it's snow. So he's running through the snow, right? Here's a dog. He goes in here and he starts to transform into a man, but he's not fully formed. Look at him. He's staggering, walking around, and his head comes up, and now they're speeding it up for us to make it more exciting. I don't know. I think now again, there's a lot of strange stuff going on in South America. So who am I to say this is fake? But I was really taken by the John Carpenter vibe I was getting from this. Transform right there before your very freaking eyes. Paul Taylor says, now Paul is a biologist, so he's going to look at this from a scientific standpoint. And so he says that's JG telling everybody to watch the thing if you haven't. Paul Taylor. So the dog stops there and then the guy gets up. So what Paul is suggesting is that there's a guy already laying down right here. And the dog comes in right there. And then maybe he's got a friend holding the dog. Like, is that like a big pipe right there? Is this like a big like pipe and the dog goes into the pipe and the dude comes out? Is that what we're seeing maybe? If that's what it is, I'm very disappointed because I thought, okay, that dog from the thing got away and ended up in South America somehow. And now, infecting more people in South America. So again, you've got to really admire the blurry content of this video. Just the lowest quality. Like if you had filmed this on Super 8 camera in 1950, it wouldn't be this blurry. Leg Kick wants to know, is that McCready's place in the back? See, this is all coming together. I think we're onto something here. Do you think they sell those? You can get like a blurry cam. I mean, if they sold those, it'd be so much easier to make cryptid videos because you wouldn't have to actually take them, like film something and it's really sharp and clear. And then you take it into your program and make it really bad so people think it's real. I mean, if you could just buy a camera that shot it bad, then you wouldn't have to do any of the extra work. So Marcus Gilligan, is that house for sale? I don't know. Maybe. Oh. A Silent Spirit says, well, it's still better quality than the Hell Dog or whatever video earlier. I know. Isn't that shocking that as bad as this is, it's still better than the last one we looked at? Leg Kick, you're wrong, is Plug. Plug. If you're talking about the design work on the thing, it was Mike Plug did it. Good old Mike Plug, who I used to be really good friends with, but now he doesn't remember me. Do I have that kind of face? Is that what it is? Or do I have that kind of personality? You're like, I don't ever want to remember meeting that guy again. Is it possible? Is that what I could be up against? Wow. This episode hurts. Hurts right here in my heart. All righty. Well, I just want to remind everybody once again that I am done with Wraith of God. If you're just tuning in, and I know many of you are joining us late, I just finished this book. Okay. When I say finished, I mean the black and white artwork is done. There's 15 pages left to be colored. That's it. It's got to get lettered, of course. And I'm working on, the stretch goals and things like that. They'll all be finished by the end of this week, if not sooner. But I do want to encourage you, if you haven't backed, please do so now, because this thing's going to be closing very soon, and you don't want to be the only person on your block that didn't get Wraith of God 3 Fear Hollow, where the Wraith and Esther go up against, of course, the Headless Horseman. There he is right there. And there's a pumpkin, which is also featured. There's a pumpkin in the story, which I think that's important. There's also this dude's head is in the story. This witch is in the story. And all three of these characters are actually in the story. So there you have 4 cover options. Get all 4. But at least get 1 if you're not going to get all 4. Nice coloring by Jason Wright. T-shirts, better get these. I'm not doing T-shirts again. Too much of a pain in the butt. So if you want one of these Bisleys or one of these Dale Kiln Werewolf shirts, order them, because you're not getting a second chance, pal. And there's some of the original artwork that's still for sale from the trading cards, and the value stamp that'll be in the book. That's Garbage Man. That, of course, is sculpture. This, of course, is Trunk. And those are trading cards and value stamps that are part of the stretch goal that you get when you order. So you get like some free stuff. And, the links in the description of this video, they'll take you right to that campaign. That, of course, again, is the finished artwork for the Trunk trading card. Who doesn't like a big muscular elephant dude with 3 fingers and a thumb? This is your chance to you add it to the little Presti cards or the Empire Comics card set, which I continue to expand because I want a whole notebook full of my trading cards, because I'm that big of a nerd. And you can join me in your nerdiness and get these cards, because they're absolutely free just for backing the campaign at any level. So please consider doing so. Stealth X5 for 5 says, may your unfailing love be with us, Lord, even as we put on hope in you. Psalms 33. Thank you, Stealth. Boy, are there a lot of good verses in that good old Bible, and we can use a lot of them this week for sure. All righty, that's going to do it for this week's show. Graybeards will be back. We're picking up back on Graybeards Wednesday. We are going to be drawing with markers and Sharpies and whiteouts, and that is it. So it's a great chance for us to do something really remarkable or make complete fools of ourselves. So you don't want to miss that. And so there you have it. Enjoy your week, folks. Let's hope everything is better this week than last. And we will see you again right here next week on Aaron Live. Good night, everybody.